Hello, friends. Welcome to Teenage Talks. I'm Dr. Chayana, bringing you another important episode. A group of teens requested me to do a podcast on establishing identity, and here it is. One of the important tasks of adolescence is developing a strong sense of self. In other words, an identity for yourself. It is essential for your physical, mental, emotional, and social health. Lacking a sense of self can make it difficult for you to know what you want, leaving you with feelings of uncertainty or indecisiveness to make important decisions. As a result, you may feel that you're drifting through life carried by others and circumstances rather than your own momentum. Hence, to throw light on this topic and help you to establish an identity for yourself, we have a behavioral scientist who studied the behavior of people under various circumstances and speaks through experience. He authored many booklets about human behavior. He is the editor and publisher of a newsletter, Banjara Life. He is none other than the chairman of Banjara Academy, whom you listen to many times. Without much ado, I welcome Dr. Ali Khwaja.
Good day.
Good day to you, Dr. Ali.
Yes.
Ali, what is an identity? How do you define it?
I would define identity as the person that I am, who I am, individually and in depth. There's a difference between who I am and what I am. Most of the time, people confuse identity with saying, I am a doctor, I am a lawyer, I am a homemaker, I am a mother of 2 children, I am a student of PUC. That is not an identity, that is not who I am, that is what I am. Meaning to say, that is the roles that I am playing currently in life, which can keep changing. But an identity is what I am. Now, identity can be in so many areas. There are people who think very sublime at a higher level. They say, I am a soul in search of peace. Somebody says, I am a creative person who likes to do something creative all the time. Somebody else says that I am a person who loves interacting with people and my joy is in spending time with people. So these are inherent things which don't change with the role that you are playing in life. And that is what defines your identity.
Does it include your values and your beliefs and your goals?
Oh, yes, that's a very important part of identity. My values, my beliefs, or my morals, whatever you want to call it. Then moving on to my attitudes, my likes and dislikes, what I prefer in life, what I am tolerant about, what I accept or I don't accept. Moving on to relationships and understanding with other people. Moving on to even aspirations and frustrations. All these things put together create my identity.
How important it is for teens to establish their identity?
In fact, I define teenage as that phase of life when you are trying to establish your identity. Before a person comes into teenage or adolescence, the person is very complacent with whatever is told to him or her. So daddy said, go to this school. Mummy said, do your homework. Somebody said, eat this food. Somebody said, go to the temple or the church. So there are times when I don't like it, I protest. But I feel that the responsibility is on my elders, my parents, my teachers, or whoever they are. So I am not looking for an identity. One of the first things that happens when a person enters adolescence, when the hormones are activated, is this question, who am I? So I was thinking that I am going to become a doctor and find a cure for cancer and this. But now I realize that that's not a very realistic goal. I don't think I can do that. I would rather be an automobile designer. Or no, I think I should do this. I should rather be an architect. So I start looking for my role that I'm going to be playing. So that is the phase in which, as you know, adolescence or teenage is the time when you transit from school to college to perhaps even your working life, long-term relationships, in many cases flying out of the nest. So it is absolutely essential that during this teenage, a person should be able to, at least to some extent, complete the process of creating a identity.
Is it an ongoing process?
Oh, yes, it is a continuous and ongoing process. Ideally speaking, by the time the person grows up and comes out of the teens, most of it should have been filled up. For example, I should have been able to identify my career. Even if I'm not qualified, okay, I've joined, BTech in software engineering. So I know in a couple of years I'm going to pass out from here and then I'll go on for higher studies, whatever. Same thing with relationships. Yes, there was a time when I used to be very angry with my father because he's so strict. But now I've realized that it is for my own good. I think in certain ways I should obey, certain ways I should assert my authority. The third thing is things like gender or sexuality. What does it mean to be a boy? What does it mean to be a girl? What's going to be my future? So this is that ongoing process, which if it is completed to great extent during teenage, then the person moves on to a satisfactory adult life. If for any reason it is left halfway through, then the person continues to be immature, continues to be unsettled, continues to be exploring and finding out what is my purpose and where am I headed.
See, I have seen in US, children born to Indian parents are called as ABCDs, American born confused Desis, because they have not really established their identity. Most of them, they are confused. So what are the factors which play a role in establishing an identity?
Yeah, the three factors which, as I mentioned just now, which I consider to be the most important is number one, in terms of studies, academics, and career. Number two, in terms of relationships, what sort of relationship I should have with my parents, my siblings, my friends. As you know, teenage is also referred to as a peer age. So how much do I get influenced by my peers? How much can I stand up to myself? All these things regarding relationships. The third is gender and sexuality. Where am I headed? What does it mean now that I'm going to be entering adulthood? I'm going to form some permanent relationship. So what is this thing called man-woman relationship? What is marriage? What is family? And how am I going to look forward to? So these, I think, are the primary factors. There are so many others. Like you mentioned, if a person belongs to, let's say, an Indian culture or background, but the person is being, brought up in a Western country. So even that plays an important role. Understanding culturally, am I an Indian? Am I an Indian American? Am I an American? And what does it mean? Even that is not a complete thing. So within this, what are my subsets? Where do I belong into each of these areas? That is what happens to people.
So do you think most of the teens establish their identity during their adolescence? Because many teens I meet, like, they don't know what they really want. Even if we ask them to write about 10 positive things about them, they are unable to write. But if you ask for negative things, maybe they'll come out with a list.
That's very sad, no? Why should a growing child, an adolescent who has his whole life ahead of him, who has gone past childhood and is now, a grown-up person, almost an adult, and is looking to be on the threshold of independent living, why should that person have such negative images about oneself? It is to do a lot with the way we bring up the children. If we allow children to explore, to find out their own identity, to create, to question, to even make mistakes, stumble, fall down, and get up and start moving, to develop that autonomy, then and then only, by the time they come to adulthood, they will have formed their identity. Now, I don't work at a macro level, so I would not be able to tell you a percentage of how many teenagers find their identity. But as you rightly said, I come across day in and day out innumerable teenagers who have grown up to become 16 years, 18 years, 19 years, but they still are struggling to find out their own identity.
So what is the role of parents in helping them to?
The role of the parents is the ultimate. Nobody can influence a child in terms of finding the identity as much as parents. A child starts off with the identity. I am my father's child. I am my amma's son or daughter. That is the role, but that actually becomes an identity to a small child. The child feels that everything revolves around my parents. I belong to my parents. The child may go to school or college, the child may have good teachers, bad teachers, but the child knows that they are transitory. My permanent relationship is with my parents. Now, if the parents support the child during those phases, as I mentioned, give autonomy to the child. Encourage the child to ask questions. There is no such thing as a stupid question. Encourage the child to question what are the norms. If they say this is our tradition and this should be done, and if the child says, no, I don't agree, be open to discussing with the child. The more the parents do that, when the child comes to adolescence and when the child starts exploring his or her identity, the child will find himself more competent to be able to find that identity because the parents have given him that basic life skills, whether it is decision making, whether it is management of emotions. If all these have been inculcated into a growing child, then he himself will start finding his answers.
But parents themselves don't know that their teens have to establish an identity for themselves. They've got absolutely no idea about it.
Correct. The thing is, yes, the thing is, you don't, if you're a parent, you don't need to find out the identity on behalf of the child. In fact, that's the other mistake that, parents make. I think my child should be a software engineer. I think my child should be an IAS or whatever military officer. Now, that is not an identity. As I said, those are roles that the child is playing. The more the parents are confused and the more the parents are pushing on the child into this thing, the less will the child be able to explore for herself as to what I am looking at. What needs to be done is to encourage the child. I am not going to find your identity for you. Only you can create your own identity. You are unique. Now you have to find out, and I'm willing to support you. You're looking for careers? I'll connect you to a doctor, find out what is medicine. I'll connect you to a lawyer, find out what is the legal profession. I'll connect you to a mechanical engineer, find out how factories are run by engineers. We will, if they continue to do that, the parents don't have to have knowledge or knowing what the thing is. Same thing with relationships. The child comes back and says, this, very good friend of mine ditched me and he's not talking to me. Or my girlfriend has, ditched me out. It is up to the parents to encourage the child to again find out what are relationships, what is the thing. I, as a parent, don't need to know how to deal with it. And even if I think I know, I should not tell the child what to do, but I should encourage, motivate, and support the child to search for those relationship issues so that as he or she grows up, he'll be able to form much better relationships.
So main thing is the communication between parents and children and creating an atmosphere where child is free to express his or her own opinions. Absolutely. What is the role of role models?
Oh, yes. Role models are people whom a person looks up to and says, hey, this guy has done something great. Or this person has some characteristics which are admirable according to me. So one is that the person looks up at the role model and says that if somebody else has done it, I can also do it. The second is that what are the things which made this person be successful or happy or contented or whatever the person is. So if I explore and find out what happened, how did that person reach that stage where I look up to that person? And the role model need not be an ideal person. The role model need not be a Mahatma Gandhi or a Mother Teresa. The role model can be a child's parent or grandparent. The role model can be a parent's teacher, a very humble, simple person who has not made big money or has not got great name. But the characteristics that the child learns to appreciate, admire, and emulate, that this is what I would like to do. My mother never tells lies, so I'm going to make it part of my identity and my very being that I will not tell lies whatever happens. So this is where role modeling comes in. And role models can be a number of them. Role models can change as the child grows up. He may say, oh, I used to think that that cricket player is very great, but now I realize that, okay, he may be great at playing cricket, but that doesn't mean that he is an exemplary human being. Compared to that, I think so-and-so is a far better person. So you keep changing your role models, but keep learning from each one of them.
But if you ask the children who is your role model, they'll come out with Mahatma Gandhi, Mother Teresa, and someone like that.
Yeah, when children feel that they will be questioned or they will be scolded or something, they come out with these answers. When we create a very open atmosphere with the child and we assure the child that nobody will question you or criticize you, immediately Mahatma Gandhi turns to the best cricket player or the best football player or the best movie actor. Or that is where we need to help, that there is a larger than life image of these people. And also it was incidental. They had certain skills and they were lucky that they have reached that point. But among them, who are the people who have characteristics which are admirable? There are sports people who uphold the highest of values and they encourage others, etc. There are sports people who have climbed the ladder by climbing over somebody's shoulders. If we help the child to understand the difference, that yes, it's good. You are also a sports person. You also want to have a sports person as a role model. It is fine. But understand that. Same thing with anybody. It could be a politician. It could be a film star. That look into the human characteristics of that person, not where the person has reached, in terms of status.
What are the characteristics of a teen who has established an identity for himself or herself? How do you know that this teen has established an identity?
Yes. What happens is, as I mentioned to you, these three areas, which are the primary areas of creating an identity. The first is if the child says, this is what I wanted to do earlier, I changed my mind and this is what I picked up. And now I am happy that I have taken up, psychology as my study. I am now in my first year, second year of psychology studies. After that, I'll go for higher studies. I will specialize in clinical psychology. I will do this and that. I have the right characteristics. I have the right competence and I'm enjoying whatever I'm doing. So academically and, career-wise, the child has found an identity. Same thing with relationships. I have these friends who force me to come out with them and to smoke cigarettes, but I know it's not good for me. So I will be nice to them. I will be pleasant with them, but I will not go out when I know that they are going to indulge in habits which I don't believe in. I have my own sense of purpose and my sense of identity, whereby I'm not going to succumb to peer pressure. On the other hand, I find such and such people to be very good. I'll spend more time. I've got this elderly uncle who's retired, but who's got so much wisdom and he spends time with me. I will spend more time with him rather than with my friends who are just laughing and joking. The third is gender and sexuality. What does it mean for me? I have a crush on this girl, but what do I do about it? Or I had this boyfriend and this boyfriend cheated on me and went off with something. Am I feeling very disappointed? Why did I have this? What was the purpose of, adoring? Did I, select him only because he was so handsome? Is that a reason for somebody being very good? No. So next time I'm going to be connecting to a boy, it will be because of whatever his inner worth is, not only because of his looks. That way you have to go on exploring.
So in other words, they know what they want to become. They know how to deal with relationships. They will not succumb to peer pressure. That means they have emotional intelligence and they know their values and beliefs.
Yes. And that is when you say that, yes. I'm not saying anybody can reach 100%. Person may say that, yes, I've taken up such and such course. I'm generally happy, but I want to expand or deviate into something. after I finish my graduation, I'd rather get into management. So I will try and see if I can do an MBA and then get more into finance management or HR management. So it's a continuous process which goes on. But overall, if a person can say, I am not disappointed, I'm not frustrated, I'm not confused, I'm not questioning myself every time as to where am I headed in these 3, 4 areas, then you can be rest assured that this child is headed in the direction of forming a complete identity.
So teens who are not established an identity will have low self-esteem and they're confused most of the times.
Yes. Self-esteem takes a big hit, because when I realized that I made a mistake, I joined such curriculum and course, and I think I've made a mistake. Then I start comparing myself with others. See that friend of mine who was in no way better than me in terms of academics. Now he's doing so well because he chose something different. So that means I'm not worthy. I'm not able to have good friendships. My friends are leaving me and going away. That means I'm not worthy of friendship. This boyfriend whom I adored and whom I idolized, he has cheated on me and he is now friendly with another girl. That means I'm not lovable. I don't deserve to have a boyfriend. All these factors lead to low self-esteem. They can even in extreme cases lead to depression and helplessness or even suicidal thoughts. All this happens when the person is not able to find the identity.
So is that known as identity crisis?
Oh yes, there are a lot of teenagers and sometimes adults also who face this thing of identity crisis. So I've come across youngsters who say that I didn't know better, so I decided to get into software engineering. And because I studied very hard, I got admission in a good college, I got good grades, I passed out. We had campus recruitment and I got selected into a very reputed multinational company. But within no time, I'm asking myself, for the next 40, 50 years, is this what I'm going to do with the rest of my life? Just because I need a job, I need a salary, I need to have that designation or something. So when I start questioning these things, it's an identity crisis. The same way, I selected this boy because, he's so handsome and all the other girls were jealous because I got the most handsome boy. But now I'm realizing the way he's treating me. And I had signals of that earlier also. I should have known better that he's a very arrogant fellow. Why didn't I listen to that? Am I not even capable of identifying who is right for me as a partner on a long-term basis? That is what happens, which we call as identity crisis. In extreme cases, people refer to it as imposter syndrome. Am I an imposter in this job or in this relationship or in this identity of mine? I don't belong here. It's like I'm playing a role, whereas I don't actually have that identity or that role.
Okay. Ali, forget about the parents. How many parents can help the teens to establish their identity? Teens on their own, how can they establish identity? What are the steps you give them?
The first step would be self-awareness. What are my plus and minus points? I may have these great dreams of saying that I want to become a film hero or I want to be an IAS officer, but do I have the requisite talent and ability to go right up to the top into that narrow pinnacle of getting into things? If not, then what are the more realistic options? What do I want to do? What am I good at? And in this process, resisting peer pressure, resisting this thing of everybody is doing this, so I will do it. So it starts with that, trying to find out what I am, where I'm good, where I'm not good. Okay, it doesn't matter. I'm not so handsome, so girls won't come to me. They get attracted to handsome boys. It's fine. They will realize sometime or the other. And I need one partner, maybe 10 years from now. So I'm not bothered if I don't have a girlfriend. Moving on from there, decision-making ability. Learn to take your own decisions based on nice, evaluation of all the pros and cons. Keeping what we call as a plan B ready. In case I don't succeed in this, I should not get disappointed. I am very keen to get into IIT or to get an MBBS seat. But despite my hard work, if I don't get it, am I going to break down and get into crying spells and depression? Or am I just going to move on into plan B, which can be equally good for me?
So self-awareness is one thing. So
Self-awareness,
they have to
management of
introspect.
emotions,
They have to
decisions
introspect themselves. They have
Sorry?
they have to introspect themselves and find out what they really want, what are their
That is
strengths, what are their weaknesses, and
Yes.
what are their values, what are their beliefs. Maybe
Yes.
we must advise them to write down all these things so that
Very true. Very
they
true.
understand themselves and
write it periodically. Keep writing it every now and then. What I had thought of when I was 14, I may not think the same when I'm 16 or 18. So do it on a continuous basis. Learn management of your emotions. What happens if I feel jealous? What happens if I'm angry? What happens if I am feeling very depressed? How do I manage my emotions? Only then I will be able to take control of my life. And then, as I mentioned, decision making. Do I believe in the decision that I'm taking? Even if my parents or elders are not very supportive, instead of fighting with them, can I sit them down and convince them systematically why I have taken certain decisions?
So finally, what is your message to teens?
My message is that if you are already a teenager, regardless of what your age is, and regardless of what state of your studies and your education is, stop at this point and start your introspection. Doesn't matter if you have taken certain choices which are good or bad or which were because of peer pressure or whatever it is. At every stage, question yourself. Have that ability to accept if you have made certain mistakes and find out how I can rectify the mistakes. If I am happy, don't get so carried away that, yes, I wanted to get into software engineering and now that I've got, life is going to be just hunky-dory. No, life is never as simple as that. So keep thinking that what is my next step? What are the skills that I need to sharpen? I'm very good at computer programming, but am I equally good with people? Because if I can't deal with people, I'm not going to go up the ladder and my teammates and my bosses are not going to be very happy with me. And finally, going on to being able to handle setbacks, hurdles, challenges, which are part of life. And the more you handle them, the more they strengthen you and make you competent to be able to deal with difficult situations in your adult life.
Do you think that it is good for the teenagers to have a mentor whom they can trust?
Yes, that's what you asked about role models also. I felt that way. If a person has a mentor, it could be, as I said, a parent or grandparent, it could be a teacher, it could be a neighbor, it could be an elder, boy or girl. But if there is somebody who is willing to allow the teen to grow at their own pace and in their own direction, but act as a mirror. What happens if you do this? What happens if you do that? What they say, playing the devil's advocate. Okay, you have chosen this. What are the plus points? What are the minus points? Have you done your analysis? How far are you progressing? What is your progress and what are your deficiencies? Any mentor who can do that can play a very significant role. And I would even tell the elder teens that please mentor the younger ones because you know them much better than your parents or the adults because you were their age just 2, 3, 4, 5 years back. So visualize and say, I went through this confusion and I went through this uncertainty. Let me help the others who are in the same boat today.
Thanks, Dr. Ali, for this
Thank you
nice
very
talk
much.
on establishing identity. I'm sure teens will start thinking about it, at least if they have not established their identity. Now they'll be aware of it. Thank you very much. And see you in the next episode.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye. Thank you, guys. You heard Dr. Ali telling you about establishing identity. Please think about it, introspect yourself, write down everything and keep updating. And I'm sure you will be able to establish identity very soon. Thank you very much. And I'll see you in my next episode.